Welcome to the Witness to War Serving a Nation project at Nauset Regional High School. For the sake of this interview, we'd like you to state your name and where you currently live.
My name is Brian McEnroe, and I live in Marston's Mills, Mass.
And when were you born?
I was born October 25th, 1971.
What branch did you serve in?
The Marine Corps.
And when did your service begin and end?
I signed up in November of 1989, and it ended in May of 96.
Where were you stationed?
For the majority of the time, I was stationed at Cherry Point, North Carolina.
Oh, and how did you end up on Cape Cod?
Well, I grew up in Brockton, and when I got out of the Marine Corps, I came back home to visit my parents on vacation, because I was still living in North Carolina, and I had the opportunity to sign up with, it was 9X at the time, but the only position they had was one in Hyannis and one in Springfield. So I chose the one in Hyannis, and that's how I ended up on the Cape.
Growing up, what did you think of war?
What did I think of war growing up? I didn't think much of it at all. Only thing I knew of it was what I saw on TV and in the movies. I never really thought of myself going to war at all.
What about veterans? What did you think of veterans?
What did I think of veterans?
Yes.
Both of my parents are veterans, so I had always had the utmost respect for them, and yeah, it was, they were basically heroes to me.
Did they inspire you to join the military?
No, not really. Although both of my parents were in the Army, I really didn't even think of joining the military for a long time. When I got out, I had aspirations of going right into college and all that, but a friend of mine had joined the Marine Corps before I did, and he got out of boot camp and came home and told me how great it was, and pretty much recruited me.
What did your family think about you joining the military?
I thought they were proud of the fact that I wanted to join. I was only 17 when I signed up, so my mother was a little weary of it at the time, but she had no problem with it, and neither did my father.
And can you explain how you prepared for your service?
I joined the delayed entry program, so basically I didn't leave right away. I signed up for boot camp, and then I had several months before I was going to leave what they call the delayed entry program. So I worked with the recruiter and did physical fitness and stuff like that basically before I left.
Could you explain more about the delayed service project that you were?
Delayed entry program?
Yes.
The way it worked was you would sign up. You could sign up. But you wouldn't leave for 3 or 6 months or however long. It just depended. Sometimes you would sign up and you would leave right away. But in my case, I went into the delayed entry program, and it took almost 6 months for me to leave for boot camp. So I just did all kinds of community service with the recruiting station and stuff like that in the meantime.
And in terms of preparing for your service, did you need anything? Like, what did you bring with you?
You don't bring anything. You just bring basically what you're wearing on your back. And once you get into boot camp, they provide everything for you once you're there.
Can you describe how boot camp was for us?
Marine Corps boot camp is 12 weeks. It's one of the longest ones, and it's tough. It's tough to begin with, especially if you've never really been away from home before. I think the worst part of it is the first week or so. You're a little homesick. I had a girlfriend back home. My family was back home, and they don't treat you the nicest. They don't coddle you at all. So you after a couple of weeks, you get used to it. But it's not fun. I mean, at the end, it's kind of fun once you're almost ready to graduate. But up to that point, it's it's a hard time.
And did you ever leave the country for your service?
Yeah, I left several times.
And where did you go?
Oh, I went to um, Oslo, Norway for cold weather training, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia is where my unit was deployed to when I got to Cherry Point. I was Mexico. I was a lot of different places. Some I probably can't even remember.
Can you go into depth about the places you went to, like each one?
Well, we did a lot of I was an aircraft mechanic in the Marine Corps, so we did a lot of cold weather training, basically. Training in all conditions, but the cold weather places like Oslo, Norway, was one of the places we would go. We also would go to Wisconsin and some places in Canada for cold weather training. Places, they would do these detachments, basically 30-day detachments. You would go for certain places just for some sort of specific training, whether it was training with another group, another military. Like we did a lot of training with the Canadian Air Force in all kinds of different places. So there was always a different mission to do, and then sometimes they were 30 days, sometimes they were longer.
And what was cold weather training?
Cold weather training was basically learning how to do your job in really cold, bad conditions, snow, sub-zero weather, stuff like that. How to maintain the planes. Like I said, I was in aircraft maintenance, so we had to be on a flight line in really cold weather, wearing really bulky clothes and bulky gloves, and still trying to do your job. It was tough.
Why did you choose the branch you served in?
The Marine Corps?
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't really have an allegiance to any of the branches, but I knew, just from growing up that the Marines were considered an elite group. That's the smallest branch of the service, and I figured if I was going to do it, I would do the best.
And when you left the country, how did you mentally prepare for that?
There really wasn't any preparedness to be had. They just told us, usually with very little time to think about it, that we would be leaving. Basically pack your bags and be here at 0600, and you'd be heading out.
So what were your opinions of the war?
Of Desert Storm?
Yes.
That's when I was in. I was young, I was only 17, 18 at the time, so I really didn't have very strong opinion either way. I thought that, I knew Saddam Hussein was a really bad guy, and, I believed the people that I was working for that he needed to be, removed, and I just followed orders and did my job.
What were your expectations when you joined the military versus how it really went?
Well, I really didn't know what to expect when I joined, to be honest with you. I thought it was, I didn't know much about it at all, and it was probably a good thing, because I formed my opinions and everything after I went in, and it was great. It was definitely one of the better parts of my life, and I'd recommend it to any young person that was getting out of high school or not wanting to go directly into college or even going in after college.
Could you describe the Middle East or the Saudi Arabia?
Well, in Bahrain, we really didn't get a chance to, be tourists. We were only there for a very short time, and we were restricted to base. Everybody was restricted to base, so it's not like you could go out and about and talk to the people and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, I don't remember talking to any of the locals in the time I was there. So I don't have much experience with the place at all. That's just where we were for a little while.
Could you describe your feelings toward it?
Toward what?
Where you were stationed?
Well, like I said, I didn't have much experience. It might as well have been Yuma, Arizona, for as far as I was concerned, because it was just sandy. and hot. And like I said, I didn't get to mingle with any of the locals.
And as you said, you did cold weather training. Were you ever deployed anywhere where it was very cold?
No, fortunately, no. No, but we did do a lot of training up there, and it was, it was what it was. It wasn't my favorite training because I'm not a big fan of being cold, but no, I was never deployed anywhere that was freezing cold like that.
And can you please describe a typical day for you while you were in the military?
While I was in Bahrain, or just in the Marine Corps in general?
In general, both. Yeah. Both.
Well, you don't really. It's not like a regular job. You have a shift. We had a shift, like a regular job, but you basically would stay till the work was done. They didn't pay overtime. You basically got paid the same, no matter if you were there for 4 hours or if you were there for 12 hours. And I would go if I was working the day shift, I'd go in at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd get my work for the day, and which was maintenance on the aircraft, and that would be it. And later on, when I became like a collateral duty inspector, CDI, and then a quality assurance representative, my job requirements changed because then you did less work and did more inspections and stuff like that.
You said you were a CDI and
a collateral duty inspector. Yeah.
What did that entail?
Well, in aircraft maintenance, the way it works is there are several tiers of technicians, basically. So you have your guys that actually do the repair on an aircraft, and there are redundant inspections to make sure that aircraft is safe to fly. So if there is a guy who does the maintenance, then there's a collateral duty inspector who is normally one of his peers, works with him on a daily basis, that will inspect his work, basically a second set of eyes to make sure that no fasteners were left out, or that that his work was good. Then on the larger items, CDI isn't good enough. Then you need a quality assurance representative, who works in an office for the quality assurance department, and then that person would have to go out and then again inspect the maintenance that was done to make sure it was done correctly and the plane was safe to fly. Did
you ever find any planes that were unsafe to fly?
No, the guys I worked with, initially, yeah, there were plenty that would come in from being flown and have issues that would not allow it to go back out and have to be repaired. But I've never actually had to tell somebody that their work was substandard and that that the plane couldn't fly like that. I worked with some pretty high quality guys.
Describe the relationships you made during your service.
Wow, the relationships, that was some of the best relationships I ever made. I still have friends to this day, 20, 25 years later. Great people from all over the country, and I made some really good friends, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was really, it was fun.
Could you go into more depth, like the specific people you met, like some of your closest?
Yeah. I mean, when I first got there, you're young and you're new. You don't really know anybody. It's like going to a new school, basically. You just show up with all your gear. You don't know anybody, and there was plenty of guys that kind of took me under their wing. I mean, my friend Mark. His name was Mark Rickoff. He was from Wisconsin. He was one of my best friends, and he was older than I was. He had already been in for a while, so he ended up getting out long before I did. There were a bunch of great guys, you're part of a team. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're new, and they tease you and stuff like that at first, but before you know it, you're part of a crew. It's good.
Did you ever kind of bring anyone under your wing,
Absolutely. After you get there and you get a lot of experience, there's always new guys coming in. They're always coming in. The guys getting out, guys coming in, and you develop relationships with them. And some you like more than others. Some, well, yeah. I mean, some, you might think that they're lazy or that they don't do good work, or And then there are guys that that would come in and really want to be a good Marine and do great work, and you would befriend those guys and take them under your wing, show them the ropes.
Do you have any regrets about joining?
I do and I don't. I think I got out. I spent a little over 6 years in there, 6.5 years, and I could have made a career out of it if I had stayed in, but life circumstances at the time kind of dictated me getting out when I did.
If those life circumstances hadn't been there, would you have stayed in the military?
Probably, yeah. I probably would have finished up my 20 years and been retired by now.
Okay, so you're saying that your regrets are more in that you left the military and not that you stayed?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah. Could you explain your most vivid memory in the service?
I have a lot of vivid memories. I had a lot of fun there, and it was probably some of the best times I had when we had aircraft. You mean like relating to my job?
Yeah,
just
relating
to my
could
job.
you go into depth about all of them?
Yeah, well, I met a lot of great people, and we had some fun outside of work too. You know what I mean? We had parties and stuff like that too that were really good time. But like with work and stuff, I mean, it was fun just getting. We had they would have competitions between the different squadrons on different types of different stuff. And we'd have a plane come in to do a very large inspection that sometimes would take a week. And we'd get the whole squadron together, and it would be like a team effort to finish these major inspections sooner than the other squadron. And afterwards, you'd have a big party. If you did good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. They knew how to motivate you.
What would you say is your happiest memory?
Happiest memory. My happiest memory would probably be boot camp graduation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What was it like?
Well, there's a point in boot camp. There was a point probably in the first. It's split up into thirds, and there's a point in there probably between your first and second. First and second, I don't know I forget what they call it. That you're not gonna know if you're gonna make it. You just don't know if you're gonna make it. And when you graduate, because they never call you a Marine while you're in boot camp. You're a recruit, and the best part is at the end when you go through graduation and the commanding officer is standing up there and they start calling you a Marine at that point.
Were there ever times during boot camp where you thought to yourself I don't know if I can finish
Absolutely, and I think everybody goes, maybe not everybody, but most people go through it. Yeah, like I said, I was a little homesick at one point. I wasn't sure, not that I couldn't make it, that I didn't want to make it. I thought maybe I made the wrong decision, but I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did.
Could you explain your darkest moment in the service?
It was my darkest. That's a hard question. I don't really. I don't know. I suppose my darkest moment would be when I first got to my squadron in North Carolina, and I was there pretty much by myself. There were a few guys that I knew from school and stuff that were with me, but we got called into a formation, I think after the third day of just being there. I mean, we were brand new, and they told us that they had a big formation with a lot of the new guys that had just gotten to the squadron, and they told us that we were going to be battlefield casualty replacements. So I think at that point, that was probably my scariest, darkest moment.
Did anyone were they ever, did they ever have to go?
No, no one close to me anyway, and nobody that I knew personally ended up being a battlefield replacement. Thank God.
And do you have any pictures you can show us from during your time?
I do have pictures. I have them on my phone though.
Do you have your phone on you?
No.
Thank
Thank
you.
Would you be comfortable with showing them to us?
Showing you pictures, sure.
Yeah.
I only have a few.
That's all right.
We'll show them on like the website.
Yeah. So just if you could,
like
just
point to the little button right here.
All right. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see them.
It'll be okay. They'll be
All
on the
right. So
website.
this is me. That's my boot camp graduation picture. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. And then this is me. This is probably one of the proudest moments of my life when that's my dad shaking my hand at boot camp graduation.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah. That was good. This was my graduation. That was my platoon.
Which one were you?
It's hard to say. We all look like ants. The picture's kind of big. Let's see. What else do we have? This is me and a friend. We were in Millington, Tennessee. We just graduated from A school, which is one of the schools you go to for aircraft maintenance.
Did you like Tennessee?
I did like Tennessee. Yeah. This one here. This is me standing in formation, getting promoted to sergeant.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah. That was at Cherry Point.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I have? Let's see.
I believe earlier you showed me a picture of you and another person.
This is me and my mother.
Aw.
After I got home.
Oh.
After I got home from boot camp. Me and another person.
You...
Oh, this one here.
Yes.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
Yeah, that one. That picture was taken at MCT. That's me and a friend of mine. I can't remember his name. This is the only time I knew him was at MCT. He was a great guy, but yeah, we posed for that picture. That was at MCT.
And what's MCT?
Oh, Marine Combat Training. That's after boot camp. You take a break after boot camp, go home. You can take leave for like a week, and then you go back and you do another 4 weeks, basically living in the woods, surviving in the woods.
How was that? Like, can you describe that for us?
Yeah, it was great. It was much more. Like, I don't know, real to me than boot camp was, because you were actually a Marine. They treated you much better. Yeah, you did real types of training, not the psychological and physical training that you did in boot camp, but you were doing real like fire team simulations, stuff like that. Unfortunately, you didn't take regular showers, you didn't get regular meals, but it was a good time. It was definitely a good time.
Could you describe your feelings coming home?
Coming home from boot camp, coming home from Bahrain,
just like-
coming
and
home
then-
just getting out of the Marine Corps in
Yes,
general.
yeah.
All of them.
Well, coming home out of the Marine Corps was kind of tough.
Tough adjusting.
Yeah, well, I kind of got recruited by Raytheon, and it's one of the reasons I got out of the Marine Corps. And I was still living in North Carolina, so it wasn't much of a change. As my living conditions didn't really change much. But after working for Raytheon for 3 months, I got laid off. So then I was out of work, and then that's when I came home to visit my parents and ended up getting a job at 9X.
And what's Raytheon?
Raytheon was a defense contractor, and what they did was as Marines, we did certain maintenance on the aircraft, but if there was something major that had to be done, like total wing replacements, major metal work, anything like that, they had contractors, civilian contractors, that would do that work, because the plane, it would be laid up for a long time, and Raytheon at the time was that contractor, so that's who I was working for on the base.
And what was 9X?
9X, that was the phone company before it was 9X when I started, then it was Bell Atlantic, and now it's Verizon.
Oh. How has your service changed your opinions on life as a whole?
I don't think I don't know. It hasn't really changed my opinions on life. I just feel like it's a good thing to serve your country, and it's what I did.
If me or any of your children or grandchildren in the future said they were thinking about joining the military, what advice would you give to them?
Well, my Joshua is joining the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
so the advice that I give to him is, try not to go in there and pretend that you know everything. Yes, let them teach you, and take their advice. I'm proud of the fact. I'd be proud of the fact of anybody going in, you or him or Amanda, anybody. I'd totally support that effort.
And Josh and Amanda are your children, right?
Yeah, Josh and Amanda are my two children, and my stepdaughter. Yes.
If you hadn't joined the military, what do you think you would have done? Sorry, I just had it.
If I didn't join the Marine Corps?
Yeah, what do you think you would have done?
Well, at the time, I was actually working on a farm, so I really didn't have much direction. I wasn't sure I wanted to go to college, and I don't know. That's a good question, but I really don't know. I'd probably still be working on the farm.
If you had gone back, would you have changed anything? Would you have gone into a different branch or anything like that?
No, absolutely not. I thought the Marine Corps was the best choice for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I was pretty immature when I went in, and they straightened me out. I learned a lot. I matured fast,
Mm-hmm.
and no, I was happy that I chose the Marine Corps. And I don't have the only regrets I have were really letting the recruiter from Raytheon talk me into getting out and going to work for them. Promised me the world, and then getting laid off was a regret.
What was the hardest part of coming back to civilian life?
The hardest part of coming back to civilian life is the lack of discipline, I will say. It's just it's different living as an active duty Marine for 6+ years, and then dealing with people that at my work, especially, you deal with people every day that complain about the smallest things. But when you're in the military, there's plenty to complain about, but not a lot of people do because there's not much you can do about it.
How was your life different after you came home?
Other than discipline.
Yeah, other than
My life different. Well, I was married, first of all. That was a huge thing when I got out of the Marine Corps, and I was self-sufficient. When I went in at 17, I was a baby, and when I got out at 25, I was a grown man living on my own, supporting myself.
Mm-hmm. Is there any advice you would give to the students of Honor Civics and Gov?
The only advice I'd give is if anybody was thinking about joining the military, they should give it a serious thought because there's a lot of benefits to it. They paid for my school while I was in. I met a lot of great people. I traveled the world. I traveled more places by the time I was 24 than most people do in their entire lives. Mm-hmm. I had a crew of 20 guys plus working for me when I was 22 years old. It's you grow up fast, and not everybody wants to go to college directly out of high school like me. I didn't. That's not what I wanted to do, but I did end up going to college. While I was in the Marine Corps, I did night school, and
was that difficult?
It was very difficult. I worked a full-time job with the Marines and went to school at night, and I did it. It took me 4 years, but I got my degree. It was good.
Is there any other information or advice you'd like to add before we finish up?
No, not really. Like I said, it was one of the best parts of my life, and I feel like, if anybody was thinking about it, they should give it a serious thought.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for your service.
Yes,
you're
thank you
welcome.
for your service.
Can we quickly just jump in the frame with you to get a picture?
A picture.
No, you cannot. Of course you can. Well,
Okay, thank you.
What to say?
I'll go this way.
all right.
Okay.
I'm gonna get the Christmas tree in the
Oh
background.
no!